Welcome to this Explicker. Okay, today we are stepping way back in time to explore the life of, well, the ultimate historical billionaire. But this isn't your typical modern story of wealth, yachts, or worldly empires. Instead, we're taking a cinematic journey into the life of a man whose caravans were literally so immense that they shook the earth as they moved, yet his true legacy? Unshakable faith. We're looking at the awe-inspiring life of the great Sahabi Abdur Rahman ibn Awf. Okay, let's dive into this. There's a legendary quote about him. They say, even the dust in his hands turns to gold. That's literally what people of his era whispered about him. His business acumen was just unparalleled, and the divine blessing, the barakah, in his trade was so incredibly profound that partnering with him was basically a cast iron guarantee of profit. Absolutely everyone wanted to be like him. But how exactly did he reach this legendary, almost mythical status? Chapter 1: Mecca's Honest Merchant. So, to really understand him, you have to picture 7th century Mecca. Imagine this bustling hub of ancient stone and sweeping desert dunes, just overflowing with wealth from these massive camel caravans. But spiritually, it was a really harsh landscape. It was completely dominated by arrogance, usury, and frankly, the ruthless oppression of the weak. And right in the middle of this darkness grew young Abdur Rahman. He watched his father's trade closely, and he realized really early on that true capital wasn't gold at all, it was trust. His deep, unwavering honesty and quiet diligence made him stand out like a solitary light in a very dark, ruthless market. But, as often happens, life shifted dramatically. Tragedy struck deep in the desert when his father's trading caravan was raided. It was a brutal reality of that era. His father was killed, and suddenly, this young Abdur Rahman was thrust into the role of sole provider. Now, the older, seasoned merchants of Mecca, they totally scoffed. They seriously doubted this young guy could survive their fierce, cutthroat markets. But instead, armed with immense patience and an absolute refusal to ever cheat anyone, he didn't just survive, he absolutely thrived. Chapter 2: The Search for Truth. As his reputation for just absolute trustworthiness grew every single day, his caravans started stretching across these vast desert sands, going all the way to Yemen and Syria. And it was actually during one of these epic journeys in Yemen that his entire worldview shifted. He encountered this elderly monk who, upon learning Abdur Rahman was from Mecca, shared an ancient prophecy. He told him the final prophet of Allah was about to appear, and the monk left him with this haunting, profound instruction. When the last prophet appears, support him and give him my greetings. You can imagine, Abdur Rahman carried those heavy words all the way back across the desert. And when he finally returned to Mecca, the city was literally vibrating with tension. There were these intense whispers in the bustling markets, panic among the tribal leaders. Muhammad, peace be upon him, had just announced his prophethood, declaring the absolute oneness of Allah and directly challenging the ancient idols. Was the fate of Mecca truly about to change? Abdur Rahman's heart, which was already searching for the truth, just knew the time had come. He didn't hesitate for a second. He went straight to his most trusted friend Abu Bakr, who led him directly to the Prophet, peace be upon him. Abdur Rahman sat before him, listened to the profound, beautiful message of the Quran, and immediately accepted Islam. Honestly, it was the greatest transaction of his entire life. He traded the fleeting approval of Mecca's elite for the absolute, eternal truth of Allah. Chapter 3: Leaving Everything Behind. So the crucial point here is that choosing the truth came with a massive, massive worldly cost. Mecca's powerful leaders were absolutely furious that their most successful merchant had embraced Islam. Business partners entirely severed ties, and the social pressure became practically suffocating. When the ultimate command came to make the hijrah to migrate to Medina, Abdur Rahman made the ultimate sacrifice. He left behind a lifetime of hard-earned wealth. We're talking his flourishing business networks, his massive accumulated fortune, his towering social status. He walked out into the burning desert sands toward Medina with absolutely nothing but his pure faith and unwavering trust in Allah. Chapter 4: The Market of Medina. So here he is, arriving in Medina starting from absolute zero. But the Prophet, peace be upon him, established this beautiful, unprecedented bond of brotherhood between the Muhajirin, those who migrated, and the Ansar, the local helpers. Abdur Rahman was paired with Saad bin Rabi. Now Saad was a very wealthy local, and in a display of just breathtaking generosity, he literally offered Abdur Rahman half of his entire wealth and one of his 2 gardens. Can you imagine that? Yet, Abdur Rahman, feeling deep, deep gratitude, firmly and honorably refused the handout. His dignity and work ethic simply wouldn't allow him to just take it. Instead, he delivered what has to be one of the most empowering and legendary lines in history. He looked at Saad and warmly said, "May Allah bless your wealth. Just show me the way to the market." He had zero capital, no shop, no inventory whatsoever. But what he did have was his pristine honesty, a brilliant business mind, and total, complete reliance on Allah and His barakah. Let's move to and see how this builds, because his rise didn't happen by magic. It was a literal masterclass in honest diligence. He started out with tiny trades, just buying and selling small amounts of butter and dates. He carefully saved those small daily profits, eventually expanding into trading horses and camels. Before long, his absolute refusal to lie or cheat made him the single most trusted man in the entire market. Within just a few short years, those massive sweeping trade routes to Yemen, Syria, and Bahrain, he completely reestablished the whole shabab. Chapter 5. Unmatched Wealth and Generosity. His success in Medina very quickly eclipsed anything he had ever built back in Mecca. Historians actually record that his incoming caravans were so incredibly massive they would literally shake the ground as they approached the city. But here's the beautiful part. While rivers of gold flowed into his hands, it never, ever entered his heart. In one truly awe-inspiring instance, he took exactly 1/2 of his unimaginably vast fortune and just gave it away for the sake of Allah, without a second thought. And he didn't just do this once, he did it repeatedly. His charity was absolutely unparalleled. He literally never turned away a poor person, and his doors were constantly kept wide open to feed weary travelers. Whenever the Muslim community needed funding for major defenses or big community projects, he was always the very first one to step forward. And profoundly, after the passing of the Prophet, peace be upon him, he took it entirely upon himself to financially support the Prophet's wives, making absolutely sure they were honored and cared for. He viewed his wealth purely as an amana, a divine trust from Allah that was meant to be spent on others, not hoarded away. Chapter 6. True Success. Now, when he eventually passed away, he left behind wealth that was so staggering, workers literally had to use axes to break the gold blocks apart to distribute to his heirs, so much so that it actually left their hands blistered. But despite this monumental, almost incomprehensible wealth, arrogance never once touched his heart. He constantly feared that his worldly success might somehow diminish his reward in the hereafter, and because of this incredibly pure heart, Abdur Rahman ibn Awf was granted the ultimate honor. He was explicitly named by the Prophet, peace be upon him, as one of the 10 companions guaranteed Jannah, paradise, while he was still walking right here on this earth. Looking back at his extraordinary timeline, we see a journey of truly epic proportions. Born into the wealthy, idol-worshipping elites of Mecca, stepping up to lead his family business as a mere youth, embracing the dangerous truth of Islam against all odds, walking away entirely penniless across the dunes to Medina, and finally passing away at the age of 72, buried in the sacred cemetery of Jannat al-Baqi. It is quite literally a 72-year masterclass in balancing the dunya, this world, and the akhirah, the hereafter. The life of Abdur Rahman ibn Awf leaves us with such a profound, beautiful truth. You see, Islam doesn't forbid wealth. It just forbids wealth from becoming your master. As the saying goes, true wealth is keeping the world in your hand and not in your heart. He was the richest of men precisely because he deeply understood that gold was ultimately just dust, and true value lay entirely in what you send ahead to your Creator. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. In our modern, non-stop pursuit of success, ask yourself, will you let your wealth define you, or will you use it to define your spiritual legacy? Thank you so much for walking through this incredible piece of history with us in this Explinger today. If you found this journey into Islamic wisdom inspiring, please make sure to subscribe so we can explore even more profound stories together. Until next time.